You're not going to believe what happened this week for the first time in history. Come closer. For the first time in history, Pokemon players got mad about stuff. It's never happened before. In the history of Pokemon fans have never been mad about this before. Well, they are frustrated once again. And if you are on Pokemon Twitter, which is a scary place to be, so I don't blame you if you're not there, lots of anger has been happening over the newest announcement of Leaf Green and Fire Red. Why? Well, let's talk about it. So first, out of nowhere in the Nintendo shop, Leaf Green and Fire Red showed up, and people were like, "Is this a mistake? Is this a joke? No one's talked about it." And then Pokemon just committed. They're like, "Yeah, we're releasing it." So we don't know if it was accidentally released early or not. I don't know. That point doesn't matter. But people got really excited because for years people have been asking, "Hey, can I play on the Switch some of the older games like Leaf Green and Fire Red?" And then the price came out, $20 for a 30-year-old game. And they aren't even going to really do major updates. It's going to be a port and all these things. And Pokemon fans lost their mind. They How could you spend $20 on a game? Which led to other people going, "Hey, I'd spend $20 on some really for some extra guac and Chipotle." What does $20 mean? So today we're going to talk about a little bit why people are mad, the upcoming games, and maybe, and ultimately kind of my opinions about the matter. So first, people are mad because of the price and because that Pokemon has not really seemed to have done any meaningful updates to the game. It looks like the way it did all those years ago, and it's basically a port from their old version to the Switch. Now, I understand people's frustration. You're hoping for a $20 price tag. You might get some increase and some better, compatibility. But I think some of that is like people are being a little obtuse, maybe intentionally or unintentionally. So first, people are mad that it's not on the Nintendo, it's not the NSAO. It's not something services online, which is something you subscribe to. It's not just included in those games. And I understand the frustration with that, but by doing that, it allows you to play offline, which I imagine most of us, when we're playing a Pokemon game, part of the fun of the portability of it is not having to be connected to the internet. And back when I played, Red, when it was released in the 90s, there was no Wi-Fi, there was no nothing. That's how we played. We just played on our Game Boy and we called it a day. So this is more in line with that way of it being. And also people have complained, the games have their mistakes. There's issues in the first couple generations, such as you're going to have to find out that Gengar, while really powerful, is a physical attacker because Ghost is a physical attack and they didn't separate, all those things. Anyway, I think people are mad because it's an old game and it's broken and there's mistakes with it and it still costs $20. And I understand that frustration. However, what's really kind of gotten the part of this a little more heated is what I'd say is the emulation debate. Basically, right now, for a long time, people said, "Well, I can't play these games through normal means, so I'm going to emulate it," meaning you're going to create a virtual console or some kind of console thing on your computer and you play the game through that. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, well, just know a lot of people play Pokemon with totally legal means, right? Uncle Jim Nintendo is definitely not forwarding anything like that. When you see your favorite streamers playing at 4x speed, just know that's totally an in-game feature. But the point being, a lot of people said, "Hey, I'm not going to spend $20. I can play these games now. I'm going to just emulate them on my laptop." And I say, great, do that, right? But you don't have to necessarily like judge or attack others who are willing to pay that $20 price tag. And what's kind of interesting about the emulation debate, for a long time people said, "Well, I'm going to emulate because I have no other means to play these games because they're not on the Switch." But now that they're on the Switch, people are using the same argument to justify them not playing them because they're like, "Hey, it's free, I might as well." So it's sort of this like weird chicken the egg situation, which like doesn't make total sense to me. If you can't afford the $20 price tag, or if other things are more, prescient with those $20, absolutely use it. But I find it kind of wild how Pokemon fans will kind of pocket watch and attack others for what they want to spend their money on. There are people who play Pokemon Go and TCG and these other things, and they'll drop $100 in a day, and no one's batting an eye. But when fans might want to pay $20 for a game, it seems like a lot of people are upset about that. And I think what confuses me is I understand $20 is not nothing, right? For a lot of people, that's more than they make in an hour. I get it. It's not a nothing price. However, when you consider inflation and consider all these things from the last like decade or so, a $20 game is not what a $20 game was a decade ago, let alone 30 years ago. And of course, you might say, well, you could just play the old version. Okay, cool. Then go spend the $100 it is to get a Game Boy Advance or a Game Boy, and then spend the extra $100 to get a legit version of the cartridge back then. This is still the cheapest option if you want to play the game in a quote unquote legitimate way. Now, again, I don't care if you emulate. I don't think you're a bad person. I don't think that in anything like that. But I think it's a lot for Pokemon fans to just constantly be mad at others for trying something that they might like. And I'm excited to play it for nostalgia reasons. I will spend the $20 to play the game, because I enjoyed it when I was young, and the nostalgia factor is gonna be important to me. I'm gonna enjoy the fact it's broken, and I know that might sound dumb to some people, but all of us we like games in our childhood, even if they weren't necessarily perfect, right? Like Pokemon was a totally broken game in so many ways, yet it became the most popular, handheld console game for many years because we love the parts that work, and the parts that don't work were quirky kind of bugs, right? They were fun features that made the game enjoyable to us, right? And there was all this, I remember being young, all this lore of like, oh, you could do this and that will lead to that before game explainers were particularly popular, or before anyone on YouTube could be like, this is how you get Mew, right? And the point being, I think that Pokemon fans, more than like a lot of other communities, really get mad at other Pokemon fans for enjoying different things. And I want to be clear, the reason Pokemon is successful is there's different ways to enjoy the franchise. My wife loves shiny hunting. She will play a game just to shiny hunt. I don't care about shiny hunting at all. That means nothing to me. She loves the collecting. I love the battling. Neither of us are wrong, right? Neither of us are playing Pokemon right or wrong, right? We're just enjoying it the way we choose to enjoy it. And so I'm going to enjoy this game because it's going to feel like a blast from the past. And if it's a bad game, I will say it's a bad game. But I have spent more than $20 in my life on bad games. Like, trust me, I played Diablo 4. That was so much money for a trash experience, for a trash experience. And that was a Full Sail, AAA game. So I understand the frustration. It would be nice if these games were free, but the reality is they're not going to be. And they're not charging like full 50, 60, $70 that we're seeing. And I know you may say like, well, duh, it should just be free because it's old. Or but this is still something they've never done before. They've never put a game like this, like in this way on the Switch, right? So it's still new, and they're probably trying things out to see if it's going to be worthwhile. They might port some of the other games. They might not. I don't know. But this is like a step in that direction. And it seems like Pokemon's releasing a lot of stuff right now for different groups of people, right? You have the Pokepia that's going to come out. You have this. Eventually they're going to have Champions come out, which is going to be more for the competitive players. And I think like Pokemon fans, if there's anything to take from this video, is like, it's absolutely okay to like things for different reasons than different people. That's the beauty of this all-encompassing 30-year-old franchise. Is there's something for everyone. And the reason I got into Pokemon and the community is like the people themselves in general are so positive, but as a community, we're so angry about like everything. And some of it's legitimate, right? I'm not saying Pokemon's blame free, and I don't want you to leave this going, wow, he's just like, that's not at all what I'm saying. But I think that we are choosing to get mad about things that don't really affect us, right? If your response is I can just play it for free, then then do so. And don't yell at the ones who choose not to, right? Vice versa. I'm not going to judge you for playing in a different way than I would, because that's how I want to enjoy the game. That's how I want to play it. And so, let's go into March and Pokemon Day, just being happy and excited that this franchise keeps putting out stuff that hopefully we'll enjoy. And if not, right, we can let them know. But the kind of preemptive, like, boycott, attack, judging others for choosing to play this game, when we're allowed to spend the money we want to. And again, if it's too much, I'm not trying to dismiss that. But $20 in an environment where games are going for nine like 70, $80 with already two or three planned DLCs that are each $30 to $40 themselves. $20 for a game that, if you wanted to play like the correct way other means, is five times as much when you, or almost 10 times as much when you can consider buying the cartridge and buying the advance. I think $20 is reasonable. I think it's reasonable. Like, people this month for Pokemon Go, if you wanted the highest deluxe pack for the month, it was $20, right? And that's going to last you a month. And the point being is, Pokemon Go does this because Pokemon players are willing to pay for it. So if they're willing to pay for a game pack for like a month, so you can go down a ladder, what's $20 for a game that you can essentially play into perpetuity until the world falls apart and all we have is our Switch? Because one day that's all we're gonna have. So for the sake of the apocalypse, right? I need this game. I need it, and I want it now. Now.